This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Seattleites might soon be getting better, more frequent bus service, but only if we approve a sales tax increase. And what role does iconography and branding play in political campaigns? We'll get into all that and more. But first, what happens when neighbors become developers? Joining us is Jed Sundwall, founder of the Downtown Loyal Heights Project, which aims to purchase a $8.8 million redevelopment site at the corner of Northwest 80th and 24th Ave Northwest with a group of neighbors. Welcome to the show, Jed.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So the origin of me hearing about this project, Jed, is actually, I feel like, a real Seattle neighbor story. Like, a friend who lives in Loyal Heights told me about this. Like, she had seen some of her neighbors talking about it. And I started looking into it and was like, we have to talk to Jed. So I'm curious for you, like, how did this come about for you?
So it's actually very funny. I'm looking at the calendar. Like, it happened a month ago today.
Oh,
I think
wow.
It was May
Okay.
3rd. Yeah. A friend texted me that lot was for sale. And anyone who knows me will attest to this. I've been talking about this forever. Like, this corner of our neighborhood has just been kind of underutilized for a long time. And what distinguishes the 1% from everyone else is that they own everything. And we're like, how do we figure out how to get more people to own stuff? And so I've had this fantasy of like, people in neighborhoods should own their own neighborhoods, right? Like, they should be able to like have like a stake in it. And so I whipped up a Google Doc with, some of these ideas as soon as I found out the lot was for sale. And it started going around in like parent text chains.
Mm-hmm.
And a friend was like, I'd put in 10 grand for this. And I was like, whoa.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Okay. So that was like signal. And then the next day I launched the dtlh.org website, just like cranked it out.
I love it.
And it's wild. And so, yeah, here we are. We've got like $2.3 million pledged now.
Okay. I was going to ask how that's all going. But okay, backing up a little bit, Jed, who are you? Like, what is your background? Like, do you have any background in development or real estate or any of that?
Not at all. Yeah. I mean, I'm the dog that caught the car. Like, I think this is a good idea. I think people seem to think it's a good idea and it's really taken off. But like, I know nothing about real estate. I'm a policy guy. Like, I studied foreign policy. I moved here 12 years ago to work for AWS. And my career has been spent working on very large scale international like science projects and coordination. So my background is in like policy and thinking about cooperative structures. Like, how do you get a lot of people to cooperate on big, expensive, complicated things? So I do think about this kind of stuff all the time, but never in the context of like building an apartment building.
Yeah.
So that's new to me. Yeah.
So why you though? I mean, you mentioned you're the dog who caught the car. Like, you just saw the idea and you were like, someone has to do it.
In all honesty, like, I have a job. I run a nonprofit focused on improving access to scientific data. So like, that's my day job that I like and want to keep. And I'm probably best suited to do that. So I think an ideal scenario here would be that if we are able to like really raise some, enough money, is that we would hire somebody to run with us who actually does have experience in redevelopment. And one of the nice things about the project is that there's a lot of talent in our neighborhood. And there are a lot of people who filled out the interest form that are like, I'm an architect. I have experience in project management. Like, so there are people, I think, they'll be able to contribute much more than I can. It's not about me. That's why I keep having to remind people.
I saw that on your site. You were like, in an ideal world, like, sure, I'm the guy who made the website, but at some point this becomes everyone's project. So you said, you've been seeing interest already. People have filled out this forms. It sounds like some money has been pledged.
Yeah.
Where are we on this? It's been a month and it seems like it's already kind of coming together a little.
We're a little bit stalled, to be honest. I mean, it's this weird situation because I don't know the church that owns the lot, like, they're entertaining offers. They're negotiating with other people who want to buy it. And I'm in touch with the broker. They're very friendly. They've been very transparent, but there's only so much they can share. And so we're not real contenders yet. Like, I don't have an entity. I'm not taking anybody's money. I'm just like keeping track of pledges. I need to like incorporate something, it might be an LLC, it might be a nonprofit that can actually receive the money. And then we have to figure out like what to do with it. The other thing is that like, this is not just, it's like, one thing is buying the lot, is like getting the land, but then developing to zone to like what it's zoned for is like it could be $80 million. Like it's going to be a serious project. And so, yeah, we're still kind of, I still would say like we're at the idea stage, but we've absolutely proven that this neighborhood loves itself and wants to take care of itself. And like people are willing to really put their money where their mouth is.
Yeah. I mean, I think what drew me to wanting to talk to you is the fact that you don't have any particular background in this, but that you just saw that, you wanted to have it done. And it sounds like you have a very realistic sense of how many steps there are and how there are probably things that you don't know at this point, but that trying to gather neighbors together could make it possible.
Yeah, that's all true. How far down this road do I want to go? Like, I think there are a lot of people are concerned about lots of things in the world right now, and I'm a big believer that like there are so many good faith actors in the world. There are people who want to do stuff. There are people who want to give to their communities. We've lived here again for 12 years. Anyone who's been to the Loyalites Elementary auction that happens every year knows like there are people in the neighborhood with like resources that are like willing to give, but there aren't that many opportunities to organize. So like the school gives, an opportunity for parents to organize. But I do think we just need to look for these opportunities for us to serve each other where we live. There are plenty of other institutions that I think are letting us down. And I'm like, you know what? Like there's a lot of power in our neighborhoods and we need to mobilize the power in our neighborhood.
Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about that corner. So it's this redevelopment lot that is currently for sale for $8.8 million. I drive by that intersection not infrequently. Like I feel like I have always been wondering, like, what could this corner be more hopping? Like Larson's Bakery is on that corner, but that's kind of it.
We have Beast and Cleaver, which is a big deal.
Oh, is Beast and Cleaver there? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There's also the Fresh Fish Co., which is the seafood market that is like right next to it.
It's directly south of that, so it's the southeast corner. And then on the southwest corner, there's Sala's, which is like a convenience store, which. If you didn't live here, you would know, like, it's an absolute institution. Like, everyone loves it.
Is that the one with, there's a food truck at the corner? Or am I thinking of?
Often. Yeah.
Sweet. So, pie in the sky. It seems like, the steps here are getting interest from your neighbors, somehow raising the money, somehow purchasing the lot, probably also somehow figuring out a system that people can kind of democratically decide what they want to see there, right? It's a lot of steps, but if you all were to get to that point, what would you be advocating for? Like, what would you like to see? I'm sure you've thought about it at this point. Like, what would you like to see there?
Everyone has ideas. People want bowling out. They want a bowling alley. They want an ice cream shop. Like, they want all sorts of stuff. I do brace myself to disappoint a lot of people because I'm like, it's going to be an apartment building with retail in it. Like, and so what goes in there is going to be a function of like what the market can support. What do we need there that's not going to compete with other businesses that are already in the neighborhood or whatever? What I really want is more community space. So like tons of people that have reached out are like, they talk about what's called the shared roof building on Finney, which is where Ben's Bread and Holy Mountain is, and Lioness, a really nice restaurant. And there's a wine place. Anyway, everyone's like, we want something like that because there's a lot of like shared seating and stuff. And so I think the neighborhood just wants more places to hang out together. And so the mix of what those businesses are, I don't really know. What I really want is a place where like teenagers like to hang out and old people like to hang out and moms with kids like to hang out, like where we could just, the whole neighborhood can feel comfortable. The one thing I'll manifest is that you can get a good view of Rainier there. And it would be very cool if you could have a sauna on the roof that you could see Rainier from inside the sauna. But that's pie in the sky.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm loving that. I think like the combo of sauna and then ice cream shop and maybe a little bowling. Yeah, why not? It's like, why not have it all?
Well, right. That's the thing is like, that's where I'm like bracing people to be disappointed. I'm like, we have to do something that's profitable. I'm of the mind that we should invest in something and the neighborhood should own it and have some degree of how it's shaped. And we should all benefit from that. But the best way for us to do that is to approach it as an actual business, that can stand on its own 2 feet. Otherwise, we're going to be raising money to save the bowling alley every year.
Well, I also think that this is going to be an interesting project to kind of illuminate how self-organization can work, or in what ways it works and in what ways it might not. I know you've been pitching this as a let's get neighbors together, people put together their expertise. Eventually, people will all have some input in what they want to see it become.
Yeah.
But sometimes, going back to even just like high school, you have a group project and not everyone's pulling their weight. Like, as the creator here,
yeah,
are you kind of prepared to fundamentally be the leader all the way through? Or are you trying to envision a structure where you do get to step back or give people more say in the process instead of having to be the one who kind of arbitrates all of these opinions?
Yeah, no. So I like work in open source software a lot. And so there's a concept within that world of like the benevolent dictator for life, where it's like, there's the person who started is kind of like always looked to as this arbiter. I don't want that to happen. I think we can have a pretty clear mission statement around like sort of like what the neighborhood wants, which is like a clean, safe place that we like to raise our kids and grow old. And what I would love is for it to be a vehicle for people to learn how to lead and serve and stuff like that. And that doesn't, I actually don't want it to be me. Like, I want to be on the board. My absolute fantasy would be for me to like really hand it off and have successors and stuff like that. I want it to be boring and last for a long time. Like that's the goal. Yeah.
All right, Jed. Well, you've planted this seed, and what are next steps here? Like, what stage are you in, and where can people go to find more?
So yeah, go to dtlh.org, downtownloyalheights.org, and there's a bunch of rambling that I've done on there. And I need to update the site with our latest pledges, but we have like 71 pledges total. We're over $2.3 million, which is amazing. So go there, and there's a sign up form. So if you're interested, just sign up for an interest list. I want more people on that interest list, and I want to hear from people like what they can contribute, not just financially, but also in terms of expertise. Like, in case it's not clear from this discussion, I need a ton of help. So if this is interesting to you, I really want to hear from you. And also, I'll just say, there might be a job for you here too. I really want to point that out as like, we've applied for a grant. If we get that, I want to use that grant to pay somebody to work on this professionally. So I'll leave it at that.
Seems like interesting things will be in store for this project. I'll definitely be watching. Jed Sundwall, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me. It was awesome.
So when we come back, we'll discuss Mayor Wilson's new proposal for the Seattle Transit Measure. Mayor Wilson announced her proposal for renewing the Seattle Transit Measure, and that plan expands bus service through an increase in sales tax. Here to discuss, we have Chase Hutchinson, journalist, critic, and host of Seattle Movies Daily. Welcome, Chase.
Glad to be here as always.
And we've got arts writer Jazz Keimig. Welcome, Jazz.
What's up?
So currently, 0.15% of our sales tax goes towards a transit measure that we passed in 2020. And under this new plan, we would double that amount. So our sales tax would effectively go from 10.55% to 10.7%. And okay, I'll tell you all what this plan actually gets us. We're currently getting around 180,000 trips a year, bus trips a year. And this new proposal would raise that to 280,000. And there's supposed to be more service, especially during off-peak hours like nights and weekends. It also doubles the amount of free Orca cards that Metro gives out, and also sets aside $6 million for Sound Transit light rail expansions, and it funds the First Hill and South Lake Union streetcars. Are you all going to take advantage of all of this extended service potentially? Or like, is this trade-off worth it to voters?
For me, for sure. I mean, I don't even have a car. So hearing about expanded transit options, I always love to hear it. I take the 8. I am one of the 8 writers. So this feels like welcome news to me, even though it comes with higher taxes, which does suck.
I was going to say I definitely would as well. I love the bus. My bus is my favorite place to not have to think about driving, to not have to think about traffic. It's great. If I could do it all the time, I would. And so hopefully this can expand it. And I think the free Orca cards, that sounds like a good thing for everyone, including car drivers. I know car drivers have lots of thoughts about things. But it's like, hey, if there's more people on the bus, there's less traffic for you as well. So it seems like it could be a win-win too.
So the last time voters voted on this was 2020, and at that time it passed by more than 80%. But for that last iteration of this measure, the tax was only increased by 0.05%. And now it's being increased by 0.15%. And I feel like that number is getting a lot of attention right now because people are basically like, hey, the cost of this is doubling. And to try and get ahead of that, it seems like the Wilson administration, in their announcement about this proposal, said that it's supposed to cost the median two-person Seattle household about $30 more a year. So currently, it's about $29 a year to pay for the Seattle Transit measure. The new proposal would cost that same household about $58 a year. Do these numbers mean anything to you all? I mean, I know, Jazz, you were like, it sucks that taxes will go up. Would you all notice this increase, you think?
I mean, like over the course of a year, absolutely not. I'm spending more on my iced vanilla lattes. I'm still paycheck to paycheck. But I still think that the overall impact, especially as someone without a car who relies on using public transport to get to my jobs, the benefit outweighs the cost for sure.
I'll echo that, especially as a freelancer, the amount I pay in taxes and in total is way worse.
Oh my gosh, don't scare me.
I know, sorry. I know we just passed it, but it's just, that's what I was thinking of like, oh, this doesn't seem so bad.
Yeah.
So Wilson, as we all know, really ran on affordability. And a lot of folks are talking about this increase in sales tax further pinching a lot of Seattleites with every purchase that we make. And in the statement that she released about the new plan, she says, transportation is one of the biggest costs for most families. So these investments are essential to make our city more affordable so Seattleites can get to jobs, opportunities, and each other without a car. Do we feel like that's a decent argument that trying to fund transit instead of, will actually convince people to not drive as much?
I think it's definitely a longer term argument, because I feel like especially with her mayorship, there's been a lot of kind of buzz around how she uses transit and her lack of having a car or whatever, her love of the eight. I feel like I'm an urbanist. Like I absolutely agree with that statement for sure.
I think it will be something that is worth keeping an eye on. The only thing that I would introduce to complicate this, and this could be nothing, but I know that David Croman at the Seattle Times noted that when she was announcing a lot of this, there were no other council members there with her, which could be that they'll have further thoughts and things that they want to share. But at this point in time, it seems like it's her delivering on something that she was running on and what her voters really care about.
Chase, you mentioned not having any city council members there. I don't know if that means anything or not, but city council does have to approve this before it actually gets put on the ballot. And we just saw this with the library levy, right? There was the mayor's proposal for the library levy, which then went to the council, and then council had their process where people can come and, give their public opinion about whether or not they support it. And this got me thinking about this perennial question that I have about our city, which is there a future in which we can get off the train of funding, no pun intended, fun kind of intended, of funding everything, so much of our city, libraries, childcare, transit, on these voter approved taxes or levies? Or is it good that we always get to vote on it? So I learned that this came about first in 2014, when it seemed like there were going to be a huge amount of cuts to Metro. Mm-hmm. It was coming out of bad times of the 2008 recession. And this came up essentially because it seemed like a lot of trips were going to get canned otherwise. And so we approved it, and then we reapproved it in 2020. And now I feel like we're in this cycle of, if we approve it again, it's going to be for another 10 years. And I've seen this happen with, a lot of the ways that we fund our city, that a levy gets introduced or a new tax gets introduced, and then it just becomes this cycle where every 7 to 10 years, we have to re-vote on it. And I'm genuinely curious what you all think about, like, whether that is a healthy system or whether something else should come about in its place.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's the difficulty in that is like voter education, because often I feel like there are levies where I'm like, what is this? And I'm someone that's like more politically engaged than other people. So I think that it's cool to have a democracy in that way where we're voting on how we're funding certain vital institutions and, you know, legislative things in the city. But I think that comes with the massive task of either educating yourself or certain advocacy groups making it clear what all of this is going to. Because I think, you know, if you are turning in your ballot day of and you're like, I have no idea what this is for, why would I want to give more money for this? Or why isn't this funded? I think there's kind of a double edge to it.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where in theory the idea of allowing folks to weigh in is always a good thing, but we live in a world where everything is very fragmented, and I don't know if that will always break through.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what would come in its place. I feel like,
yeah, I'm like, what's the alternative?
Because public information campaigns also cost money too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. That's for someone smarter than me to figure out. I'm just putting it out
I'm like,
there.
Let's get into it. Yeah.
If you all have proposals, let me know. But I do just think it's interesting that so much of our city gets funded this way. And, well, it seems like City Council is going to have to make the next move here to actually vote to approve this so that it actually shows up on our ballot. And I'm sure we'll hear much more from people during the public comment session. All right, let's take a break. And when we come back, Jazz, Chase, we're going to talk about what each of you has been working on lately. Jazz, you recently wrote about the visual branding of state Senate candidate Hannah Sabio Howell's campaign for CHUM magazine. So what struck you about Sabio Howell's campaign iconography that initially led you to working on that?
You know, thinking about Seattle and our color story, I feel like often, you know, we get branded with like blue, green, brown, like very natural colors. And something that really struck me about Hannah's campaign is how bright it was. You know, there is oranges, purples, yellows. It just really feels like it stands out from a lot of the either like PNW core / Sonic core. I feel like a lot of Sonic's colors come up. And, you know, the kind of Americana, you know, American flag slop that a lot of other candidates use in their campaigns. And, you know, obviously, Zohran Mamdani had such a huge influence on progressive branding, you know, especially for candidates of color. And I felt like Hannah's campaign kind of hit a lot of those different points. And it was really fun talking with her and her designer, Rob Noland, about how they put this campaign together.
Yeah, it's one of those things that you obviously see and it makes some impression on you, but it's all somewhat subconscious, I think. But Chase, I mean, have you seen any of these campaign signs and have you noticed any of these trends, I guess?
I have, and I've been enjoying reading kind of like the deep arts kind of criticism / like analysis pieces, and also will now forever love the phrase American flag slop and never not be able to see that in every other thing. Because the political candidates will still have to deliver on the promises. But I think what it's speaking to is we're going to do something different. So our campaigns, the art of the campaigns should reflect that. They should be something new and different as well.
Yeah. And I think especially, you know, even more so than like 4 years ago, it's hard to break through, not only with a political message, but also just visually, I feel like is even harder. And so it's cool to see these younger candidates who are going up against people like Jamie Peterson, who's been in the state Senate for a while. It's like, how do you kind of tackle that, you know, politically and then also in a visual way?
Has visual style become as important as the issues? I mean, it's just like trying to get in front of people is a huge barrier already.
I mean, I would hope no, but I feel like the reality is yes. And I think Hannah's campaign is really doing a good job of trying to kind of be candidate forward while also integrating parts of her policy and things that she values. And again, I feel like Zohran Mamdani is kind of like the gold standard for that, for like Zoomer, millennial political core, where you're going up against this big machine, and how you present your narrative as connecting to the story and connecting to your values is really important, because people want to disengage. Like, tuning into what's happening at the White House every day is so demoralizing. It's important, but it's like, how do we kind of connect your everyday challenges that you face in your life with these kind of broader themes that people like Hannah are looking to run on?
Well, switching gears a little bit, Chase, you just had a piece in the Seattle Times about how SIFF is showing the Odyssey in 70 millimeter. Producer Liam has left a note here saying, screaming, crying, throwing up. As a non-film nerd,
Yeah.
why does that matter?
Well, the first thing I would say, please don't scream and cry and throw up at the SIFF theater, because that will be a whole thing that they have to clean up. But it's something people are excited about, because the SIFF Cinema downtown, when it was the Cinerama, used to show 70 millimeter screenings a lot, which basically, just to very simply boil down what that is, it is a richer image. It is projecting on film. It is seeing the texture of an image, the detail, in a way that just digital doesn't. And it is also a bit of a heavier lift to do, which is why I've heard it's kind of taken a minute to bring this back. But it's been one of those things that local film folks have been really anticipating, really calling for, really hoping can return. And SIFF is now bringing it back with one of the bigger movies of the summer, and hoping that people will come out for that.
Jazz, is this something you're going to go see?
Yeah, I'm locking in right now. I love a big, budget blockbuster. I love the Odyssey. I was sad to hear about the IMAX kind of not existing anymore at PAX I. And so I feel like this is an adequate replacement for me. And I don't think I've actually ever seen a film projected on 70 millimeter. So this seems like the movie to do it with.
And just for folks that are also wanting to get tickets, by the time they're listening to this, it will either be that they have gone on sale at 9 a.m. or have already been on sale and might already be sold out. So sorry if you're listening and that's already gone, but it will be.
See, this is why I think CityCast comes into your podcast feed at 6 a.m. So early bird gets the worm.
Yeah, exactly.
If you're a film nerd. Speaking of local film, Jazz, you have an upcoming screening or set of screenings.
Mm-hmm.
So the next one is By Hook or By Crook, and it's at Northwest Film Forum as part of your Unstreamable series. So tell us a little bit about Unstreamable. I love that name, by the way, because I feel like that already tells you something about what it is. But yes.
I know. I was so shocked that wasn't taken by the time we started it. But Unstreamable has a long history. We've been going for 7 years now. It was a project I started with my former editor at The Stranger, Chase Burns. We both worked at The Stranger together. And both of us were really curious about Scarecrow, where I actually, full disclosure, I work there now as a video librarian. But, for those of you people that don't know, Scarecrow Video is a video store / archive with over 155,000 titles. So if it's been released on home video, we have it. And me and Chase were just looking for a way to navigate through all of that, because it's so overwhelming. And we decided to kind of focus on films that you can't get on Netflix or Hulu or buy from Apple. And we started writing a weekly column every week, where we would each write about 2 different unstreamable films. And we've collated over like 400 movies. And then in 2022, we made the jump to doing IRL screenings. We started with All That Jazz, Bob Fosse's epic, and one of my favorite movies ever. And since then, we've screened almost like 30 movies, which has been really fun. Like, we had a Super Mario Bros. Screening at SIFF, I think last year.
Is that not streamable?
Yeah, the really terrible one from I think it's like the late 80s, early 90s.
Yeah, I think I got that on VHS when I was a kid.
Yeah, I think it's terrible, but it's so funny at the same time. And we had we sold out SIFF Uptown. It was so cool to see that many people excited about like an old movie, and this project. So it's just me at Unstreamable now, and I'm bringing it back to Northwest Film Forum, and we're kicking it off, with By Hook or By Crook, which is like this really sick trans butch comedy, like buddy comedy about these two trans guys who kind of become friends and go on a life of crime. And it's from 2001, and I first watched it when my roommate was recovering from top surgery, and we were both really blown away by like how real and vulnerable it was. And it was also just really fun. It's just two guys, like dealing with, bigger things of like death and belonging, but also, having fun with their friends. It's such a good kind of like film to watch during this Pride season, during summer with your friends. And I'm really excited to bring the 4K restoration to Northwest Film Forum. So I'm going to do the intro on Thursday, June, I think that's 18th. So come out, and we have a whole slate of Unstreamable films for the next year at Northwest Film Forum. So
amazing.
Yeah.
Chase, do you have any favorite Unstreamable films? Maybe not Unstreamable, the brand necessarily, but Unstreamable in the general sense.
I was going to say, I don't want to take the thunder, because Unstreamable, it reminds me of like the Last Good website. It's the Last Good Substack. It's the one good thing. I think to continue with like the Northwest Film Forum love, they're doing a series called She Don't Fade, the short films of Cheryl Dunier, who folks don't know is the director of The Watermelon Woman. And that's like a very significant, fun film. And so are these. In their own way, it was kind of her exploring some of the things that she would in the future. And so I would shout out those, because that's playing at the Northwest Film Forum, I think, for several more showings by the time people listen to this. And then the Grand Illusion is also doing a screening of The Watermelon Woman, which I think should be streamable. But I think what this speaks to, and very different than the Odyssey in basically every way, but people want to experience things in a communal space on high quality, like restoration level or high quality projection as best as they can, rather than just sit and wait at home and have it on Netflix. It's just a different viewing experience. And so anytime there's an unstreamable screening, it's, if anything, the unstreamable nature of it makes it more valuable to then see communally rather than just sit and have it be background noise.
Totally. Thank you for that. I'm going to steal some of that in my branding.
Okay. Glad to.
Yes. I mean, I think like even if something is technically streamable, just try and even figure out like where to do that. And then it's like, do I give Amazon $4 for this? There's something about the physical media that is satisfying, and it's just great to have a repository of all of those things where
Absolutely.
You can actually go physically get the thing. If people want to subscribe, where should they go?
We have a Substack. It's just unstreamable.substack.com. I post weekly. The day changes, but I'll have something up by Thursday. So we'll post a new Unstreamable film every week, and we'll also pull one from the archive. So you'll get 2 recommendations every week right to your inbox.
Incredible. Arts writer Jazz Keimig, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me.
And Chase Hutchinson, thanks as always for being here.
Glad to be here.
That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane C. Hu. And listeners, we would love to hear from you. Send us your favorite unstreamable movie. Or let us know how you're feeling about the Seattle Transit Measure by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail at 206-880-3931. Until next time, see you, Seattle.